to DisruptED TV, where every little idea can make a big difference in your classroom or in your school. And our guest for this episode is Dr. Josue Falaise, who is the founder and CEO of Gomo Educational Services. Josh, it's such a pleasure to have you on the program.
Welcome, Josh.
It's a pleasure to be here.
And Josh's disruptive idea is that professional learning community and professional development sessions in schools don't have to be what most people know them to be, which is a little dull and maybe not very engaging. And do I have that right?
That is correct.
Tell me how you changed the game.
Well, my goal with Gomo Educational Services is to disrupt education by transforming PLCs, that is professional learning communities, basically in three core areas of the curriculum design, analyzing data-driven instructions, and then just making the PLCs more proactive.
Okay.
And that is done mainly through looking at what is the first step of the curriculum, just unpacking the standards, which people are usually, or educators are usually accustomed to just receiving some sort of book,
Right.
materials, and saying that's my curriculum. Whereas when what I do with the Gomo is have them unpack, where they're looking at the standards and fully articulating what the standards actually mean. The thing is, as a PLC, it's not doing it alone. They're doing it together as a group. And one person, when you're by yourself, cannot do enough. So as you start grabbing more people and bringing more people in, you now start having a much richer and much more comprehensive document. So, and also the experience. So I have, 19 years in education. You may have 15, 20, 30 together, with you. I have my own 19 with you, if the 25. That's now 41 years of experience that goes into that curriculum. The rich experience that you may bring, the styles. So we're looking to make a much more, again, comprehensive curriculum, and that's kind of the work that we do at Gomo. Additionally, with the analyzed data-driven instruction. So when, let's say there's a sort of assessment, you're looking at formative and summative assessments. Sometimes educators don't know the difference between formative and summative. So part of my work is to identify or differentiate what is the difference between each. Sometimes they overlap. How can you fully understand that, and as well as your staff? So as school leaders are having concerns, I come in to be able to support them with that. And ultimately with the PLCs to make high performing, and I'm looking to really impact their climate and their culture with the strategies of coming together so they can work in those meetings, because people sometimes attribute PLCs to just a meeting. They're having those non-discussables. They're talking, bad about students or challenges. So how can we make that transformative, talking about students, but in a educational manner, supporting them, looking at data and driving instruction, and then ultimately changing not just the climate, but then the culture of the school.
Well, I think that's a great way to put it. Yeah, it sounds, before the program, I think you mentioned your tagline was developing high-performance PLCs.
That's correct.
That's really what you do.
That is correct.
And you do that by we had a guest on one of the early programs of DisruptED TV, Dr. Michelle Diabundo, Seton Hall University, who talked about the importance of teaching adults the way adults learn, which is andragogy, not pedagogy, which is learning by doing.
That is correct.
So what you take is the traditional pedagogic approach to PLCs and make it more interactive and more engaging. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, so how do you do that for me? I'm assuming your customer would be a school administrator?
These school administrators and school teams. So first of all, it's diagnosing their how they operate now. And maybe through a self-questionnaire, they determine how they're operating, and then also determine how they would go. So they'd have to develop goals, objectives. And then from there, we would actually look to address those concerns, again, in the area of data, curriculum, climate, culture, and then we would look to work with those teams.
Okay, so you don't just look at one PD course that I'm taking. You look at the entire curriculum that I offer.
That is correct.
So you try to understand, from my point of view as a school administrator, what I'm trying to accomplish in my school, and then you help me put together a PLC that actually gets me there.
That is correct. So, for example, when I became principal, I remember walking to my most previous principalship, and that was in 2010. I remember asking the staff, where's the curriculum? And someone said, it's in your office in a bookshelf. So I went to the bookshelf, and this was 2010. I remember finding just documents from 1999. So now it's looking at the curriculum to make it more organic.
Right.
It's visible, and then people actually know what it is because they created it. And that's, again, transformative because that's not what people are accustomed to doing and
Right.
seeing.
Well, then bringing all that up to date is really the key to engaging teachers in the experience you're trying to create for them,
That's
really. And when teachers can still smell the mimeograph fluid on the papers that they're working with, that's not exactly engaging, especially not for younger teachers who don't learn that way and can't develop with those kinds of materials. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, so you've got to bring that stuff up to date. So you take what I've got and you work with me to come up with more engaging, more interactive ways of getting those points across?
It's not also just coming up with more, but also sometimes it requires you to transform, which means it's doing something new. Because if you're doing maybe a Monday through Friday type of lesson plan and it's now developed into units, that's something that's transforming because you're not accustomed to doing that. However, when you're looking to teach it, you're bringing about certain activities that are covered Monday through Friday or Monday through Friday for this week or the second week. And therefore the teachers can now look at concepts rather than on Monday, I need to teach specifically these concepts. On Tuesday, I need to work on this task. And Thursday, I need to do the assessment. So they're not trying to plan, I guess, more of a dictatorial lesson, but then something that's organic. And then they can see it evolve from one step to the next. They can look at the students' formative assessments over time, because formative assessments is actually assessments that drive instruction. So if you are just setting, I'm going to assess the students on Thursday, and that's it. What about if you assess them on Tuesday because the student actually knew the information prior to? So why wait till Thursday? What are you going to be doing for 2 days? And that's where we actually lose students. So that's the form of transformative leadership. So the teacher can do it at the teacher level. Then they need to be supported by their school leader, and that's why I work with the school leaders and the school teams.
And one of the things you do that's so important is that the professional development can get kind of stale if people don't look for better ideas and how to make it a real transformative experience rather than just a recital of ideas or something like that.
That's a great point. So now I'm going to put it to you this way. There used to be, a long time ago, I'm dating myself, Charles Atlas used to take skinny, scrawny kids on the beach and turn them into He-Men, right? There was a before picture and an after picture. So Gomo is the Charles Atlas of professional development. What does the school look like before Gomo? What does it look like after?
That is correct. So before, and it depends on each school and school culture, because you could have a high-performing school, meaning test scores, which is one of our data points, but there can be certain practices that are not effective in there. So if we're looking at just the data, we can say, yes, you are, but then when you look at just the classrooms, not just the performance of students, because they could sit around in their rooms just looking at a newspaper, and even the teacher could be looking at a newspaper and the students are just throwing a sheet of paper that they've probably been using for 5 years. But as we work with them, the teachers will, first of all, be knowledgeable of their content because they're unpacking the standards. So they understand their content area. And again, I'm looking to build the capacity of teachers. Right. So let's say you actually get a varied range of students, from someone who's low order to someone that's higher order, all in that class. You now lessons that can be able to address those ranges, and then styles that also now come upon helping those teachers, because now it just goes not just the instruction, but even the style of it. So the teacher knows how to be able to be flexible to work with those students, but even more so their peers. So for example, let's say we have just the ranges of assignments and assessments that are created based on a unit. And then you have another teacher that works alongside you next door, or even just across the hall. And it's the same content area. Who's to say that the teachers can parallel teach on the concepts, and the students can go between room to room based on what the teachers are teaching? And that's the sort of things that we work with Gomo to help teachers do within their PLCs.
Well, it's a great approach.
Yeah,
it's
a great approach, and it's needed. So going back to that before and after picture, Josh. Before Gomo, it's audience, teachers, speaker, materials that may be out of date, not very engaging. After Gomo, what?
Okay. And also, not just a speaker, but let's say, and I said before, the teachers may be having just non-discussables, looking at behavioral challenges, maybe just having papers in front of them and not doing much with it. And then maybe people aren't even happy to be there. So where they're looking at cell phones and grading papers. So after Gomo, the vision is for teachers to be looking at the data together as a group, maybe bringing lesson plans and, the unit plans and they're looking to revise those unit plans in an organic manner. Again, maybe they may have had something where they unpacked it, had some sort of assessment that they realized after assessing, because of maybe this teaching style strategies, it just did not work. Then they revise it together as a group. Let's say look at the rubrics again. The lesson plan, the lessons that are taught are standards based. They create a standards based rubric. Again, if they realize as a whole after critiquing it that it did not work, then they revise it. The group also can be looking at maybe looking at literature groups as studies where they're creating a book, let's say a rigor for the month or for the year. They're breaking it down in tasks and asking each other questions to grow on. They'll be walking through classrooms of other peers and offering feedback to each other as far as what they saw they didn't see to support each other. So this is non-evaluative feedback. They'll be presenting information from their lessons and assessments to other teachers and their peers as far as what students did learn and what they didn't learn, and looking for their peers to offer them feedback and strategies. And then they're looking for they will be seeing their leaders support them in their PLCs. And ultimately, this is just a PLC during the school time, and I know faculty meetings usually held after school. So this will ultimately even transform faculty meetings where that could be something that's more pedantic to something that's transformative also, because they're going to be looking to continue with those same sort of practices after school or before school, whatever the times that the schools meet.
That's important, because I think when people pull a group together to learn something, there is an overemphasis sometimes on the cognitive aspects. What are you saying? What are the words? What are the concepts you're communicating? Not a whole lot of time is paid, unfortunately, to the motivational aspects and the emotional aspects. What is it that excites us as teachers? What is it about this professional development meeting that feeds that, if you follow me? And you address that, isn't that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Well, I think that's just so great, because I know I've been to a couple of PD sessions, and I know they could use every now and then a little bit of supercharging. And where does this come from, Josh?
What sparked your interest in this? I mean, it's fascinating.
So my work has come mainly through just my work as a principal, vice principal, and chief academic officer at this point, where actually my previous school took a school that was failing for 6 consecutive years. It had some behavioral challenges, climate challenges, culture challenges, and I just remember coming in as taking stock from the different various groups like the Board of Education, community, the staff, and again, looking to supercharge, looking to build on the capacity that certain people said that they had, and just designing like a 3-year plan addressing climate, culture, and curriculum, which eventually had them working in PLCs. And I did this work with the NJPSA FEA through the Connected Action Roadmap. And then from there, just went addressing all those different type of angles and as a team, because now the staff felt united, and it became to a point where they said, this is how we do it here. So regardless of what new staff member came, they let them know, this is how we do it here. Whatever your administrator came, this is how we do it here. And that's ultimately what a high-performing PLC does, because now it changes the whole culture, the whole climate. And even where there's some behavioral challenges that we had in the school, I would say by year 2, it was almost eliminated, because even the students bought into, this is how we do it here, and these are things that we don't do here, and it's a place for learning.
Well, that's great, because if you create a climate for people to want to learn, to want to be engaged, to want to be energetic, it's infectious.
And Gomo breaks that mold of, this is how we do it around here.
This is how
We're going to change that up. I mean,
That
we're
is
not going
correct.
to do, just because we've done it this way, doesn't mean that's the way we should be doing it.
That is correct.
And you didn't mention, by the way, you're also a director at Rutgers University. Maybe you can talk about that a little bit.
Yes, I'm also the director of the Rutgers Institute for Improving Student Achievement, where I work with the Graduate School of Education of supporting schools and school leaders, as well as the district leaders. I mainly work with superintendents on how to bring those type of services to the schools and school leaders. I've been a chief academic officer, a principal for 14 years, vice principal, as well as teacher. As I said, I've also worked with the NJPSA FEA for about 7 years, EIRC, and a number of other things with traveling, presenting on leadership PLCs.
And your school administration experience is Trenton, New Jersey?
As a chief academic officer.
Chief academic officer
in
Trenton, New Jersey, which for people outside the state of New Jersey, Trenton is capital of the state, very urban, very diverse community, and you certainly get a lot of experiences in an environment like that. So you've been to professional development sessions, you've delivered professional development sessions and all those experiences are what inform Gomo. And what does Gomo stand for again? What is it?
Gomo, it's just Gomo. I had a situation where I was with my wife. I had a vehicle that it didn't work that well that I felt, and I was just in school, and my wife was away at law school at Dickinson School of Law, and when I was in school, and I wasn't sure if the vehicle can always make to go see her. And I remember asking a family member who was a mechanic, can you kind of fix up the car? I mean, I was in school, I didn't have very much money, and he said, I'll fix up the car. Let's see, and I just want you to just like pray on the vehicle, like it'll be all right. Just believe in the car. And I went to go see her, and the car made it. Went it again, car made it. And he said, and I notified my friend. I said, the car works. He goes, I know. The car will keep going more as long as you believe in it. And it will look to, it will transform. So I've always, and I actually call the car Gomo.
Okay.
And I kind of attribute a lot of things as far as like continuing like my relationship where I'm now married to my wife, and it all started with Gomo, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to go see her from New Jersey to the law school.
You wouldn't have been able to get there.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to get there. It's many years ago. We're talking about 20 years ago. So the communication technology is is advanced since then. So and that's why I said I want something and going more, and that's what I believe the PLCs in schools are looking to go more. They're looking to go differently, and that's why I titled the company Gomo.
It's a great story. Now, when we come back, we're going to Gomo with Josh Falaise.
Yeah, absolutely.